Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. Goodbye 2020. Hello 2021. Yep, we're gonna do this. It said I'm a little over 1,500 miles from my destination, but it's gonna end up being 300 to 400 miles more than that. And it's a very cool, cold morning here, Cotton Hill, Colorado, Grumpa HQ. Offering you the opportunity to come along on this trip with me. Let's do it. So, sun's now up. I'm in New Mexico, 3 hours after we left Grumpa HQ, and we are passing by a volcano in New Mexico, Mount Capulan. It's about halfway through the corner of New Mexico as you're coming from Texas to Colorado. And it's a very interesting sight, and if you ever get a chance, I recommend pulling off and going up the road and driving around and going to the top and hiking around the top of the volcano. It's very interesting. A lot of volcanic rock in the area. As you go through and you see any big clumps of rock, odds are that's a volcanic deposit. So one of the more interesting things in this part of New Mexico. Not a whole lot to talk about, but an interesting volcano nonetheless. So I'm grumpy. So far on a trip, I am just south of Amarillo, and about 2 hours ago I get a message on my phone about my SIM card not being authorized for voice, and my phone has quit working. So fun. Got to deal with that tonight. Back in February, early last year, barely last year, somebody hijacked my phone after I had come back from a trip to Disney World. I was driving home and I got a message that my phone was no longer active. Now that is not the same message I got this time, so it may be something different. A few months ago I got a message that my phone was no longer going to work effective a certain date in January. I don't recall if it was January 1st. I never got a reminder. I wasn't sure if it was a scam. But I'll have to wait till I get to a hotel and can get the internet and look at my account. But that's not something fun to deal with when you're just starting out a 3-day road trip on a trip to Florida where you need your phone in order to access all your Disney stuff. So, yeah, grumpy. In between Lubbock and Amarillo on Interstate 27, you run across an exit to this town. I think I'll skip it. Okay, drop the granddaughter off back home. I am on my way to my first stop for the night, my first leg of the journey, but it's just east of Dallas, so I've got another 6 hours to go. So should be fun, but we'll be going back through some of the close to the area I've grown up, places I've run around in growing up. Not quite my hometown. Probably check that out on the way back home once my Florida trip is done. But hopefully we'll run across something interesting, and I'll be glad to share it with you. If you've never traveled up around the Lubbock area and parts around, you're on a very flat surface, and then all of a sudden you drop off what we call the Cap Rock, and you go into a small canyon. But for a lot of people that have never been up in that area, they don't realize it exists, and it drops into a whole different world. You go from being flat to some hills. Now, they're not as interesting hills as I have up there in Grumpa HQ, but they're pretty interesting hills nonetheless, and it catches a lot of people by surprise. So explore around if you're ever in the Lubbock area. You might find some interesting scenery instead of flat farmland. We are approaching the small town of Turkey, Texas, which in and of itself is unique for its name. However, this is the home of legendary country music legend Bob Wills. If you had the Mount Rushmore of country music, pure country music, Loretta Lynn, Dolly Parton,
turn left on North
Bob Wills, and Ernest Tubb, most likely. We could argue for June Carter Cash or the Carter family, but that's the opening debate, is those four, Mount Rushmore, pure country music, Bob Wills, Ernest Tubb, Loretta Lynn, Dolly Parton. What do y'all think? So that's going to wrap up our 14 hours of the first leg going to Florida, our Disney Universal pilgrimage. Tomorrow we'll be going through some territory I'm very familiar with and one place I've never been. So a little bit shorter drive tomorrow. Probably share a little bit more, trying to develop my personal style for vlogging. So we'll see you tomorrow. Good morning, everyone. January 2nd, 5:45 in the morning. Gonna get an early start, not drive so long. Hopefully go to bed a little earlier than I did last night. Spent a lot of time trying to get a new phone set up, which was a complete pain, so grumpy. So we're gonna we're gonna feed the pony, get on the road. Plans to head to Louisiana, and once we get to Shreveport, we'll figure out whether we keep straight or we drop down and hit I-10 heading east. So let's see what happens today. Oh my God, what have we here? It's a Buc-ee's. Hi, Bucky. Haven't seen you in a long time. Good to see you again. Gonna be a good day. Found a Buc-ee's. Gonna go get some breakfast. Buc-ee's is like its own theme park. It is legendary in the state of Texas. It is probably the greatest convenience store I have ever been in. You've got to try it out for yourself. If you're ever in Texas and see a Buc-ee's, pull in. Okay, got a brisket and egg taco. Got some beaver tots. Buc-ee's, starting the morning right. Little less grumpa. Got a nice sunrise on the East Texas border coming into Longview. Some very Windberg-esque looking clouds. If you don't know who Windberg is, he's a Texas artist that I think, in my opinion, painted clouds better than any other artist I have ever experienced. But some of his work, you would look at it and you're like, that's a Windberg, and then others you could recognize it immediately. Usually his landscapes. So if you've never heard of him, check him out. He's got some interesting artwork out there, and he's a Texan, so awesome. But Texas, you get sunsets and sunrises that are like this, and probably one of the best places I've ever lived or been for sunrises and sunsets, especially West Texas sunsets. So notable, in fact, that they were used at the end of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. They went up to West Texas near Amarillo just so they could film Sean Connery and Harrison Ford riding off into the sunset. They're that notable. Look it up. So this morning we're running along I-20. Spent the night in Forney. Did about 815 miles yesterday on this trip. Looking to do a little over 650 today, a little bit shorter day. Should be wrapping it up before 5 o'clock. End goal for today, to call it a day, will be Crestview, Florida, just inside the Florida Panhandle. Sets us up to make a fairly easy last leg to get to our final destination, Disney World. I've spent many years running up and down I-20 in the Longview, Shreveport, Monroe, Louisiana, all over the state of Louisiana, Alexandria, Baton Rouge, New Orleans area, the western part of Louisiana. The company I worked for had stores there, so I spent a lot of time at those locations, going back and forth. So very familiar territory this first part of the drive. We're going to take I-20 all the way over to Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Have not gone I-20 that far. Once I got to Monroe, we would go over and then cut down and cut across the western side of Mississippi to get back to Baton Rouge. But this should be an exciting morning. Looking forward to cutting through Alabama, because I've never been to Alabama, so that will be a checking off of a state that I've never visited. So that's kind of exciting. Starting to collect a majority of the states of the Union that I've been to. Most of the states I'm missing are up in the Northeast, and more than likely probably going to continue missing those states. But cruising right along, traffic's been pretty light the last couple of days. Of course, yesterday was New Year's Day. Everybody was sleeping it off. Towards the end of the day, it got a little heavier, especially going around Dallas. Of course, Dallas is always a mess. I think of all the cities in Texas I've driven, or other states, Dallas is probably among the worst as far as traffic. It's just a snarl. Austin inside the city probably comes in, I would say, a close second. Austin, because it's grown so much, they haven't built their infrastructure up. So you're basically a mid-sized city that's grown into a larger city that still has the traffic capacity of a mid-sized city. So that's kind of their problem. Dallas is just sprawling. They keep building and building, much like Houston, and they can't keep up. There's too many people. There's going to be more roads than cities before long. And they do a lot of tollways, and my traveling companion Audrey, my GPS, was very insistent last night that I take tollways, and I knew better, and I'm like, why would I want to take a tollway when I've got a freeway? Now Florida, I will not have that option to get from I-75 to I-4 to get into Orlando towards the Disney side. I will be on the Florida Turnpike, so there will be tolls involved, but I'm prepared for that. So, which is why in Dallas, when I could not pay tolls, save and pay my tolls in Florida, where there's not a really good way of getting around it. But while I'm driving, I want to talk about some traveling and social etiquette that I've noticed, and not just this trip, but over the years I've kind of developed this, and really 2020 was the year that a lot of this came about, and it all started with this right here. What is this? This is a mask. 2020, if you're going out in public, you kind of need to wear one. I know a lot of people argue about that, but it's the right thing to do. I have to wear a mask. you need to be wearing a mask. I'm Grumpa. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Wear your mask in the public as the rules require. Let's be a little safer. Don't be a mask hole. Mask holes are people that know the rules. Happens at Disney. I've seen it. It's clearly stated. Must wear a mask at all times. And people will go in, not wear their mask, and argue with them. You're a mask hole. Second, driving. 2-lane road, multiple lane roads, left lanes for passing. Don't occupy the left lane if you can get over in the right. Keep that open for passing. Don't be a pass hole. Seen lots of pass holes on this trip. Probably been guilty a little myself, but I try not to be. So don't be a pass hole. Pass, get back over. Leave it clear. Let's keep traffic flowing. When you're filling up with gas, you got multiple pumps. Don't pull to the middle pump and stop. Pull all the way forward so other people can easily get in there. Those places have tight quarters, and if people are passing and backing up and getting all cockeyed, and it's hard to get through the gas lines. Don't be a gas hole. Now you have to be careful about accusing somebody of being a gas hole, because they may have pulled up to the middle pump because that was the next one, and the person in front of them left, and so they look like they're a gas hole. So don't accuse somebody of being a gas hole unless you know they're a gas hole. But in the end, don't be a gas hole. And finally, something I'm sure I'm going to run into once I get to my destination. When you're in an area with large crowds, and this could be a grocery store, theme parks, sports stadiums, anywhere where there's a large congregation of people, and you're walking along the pathways, don't stop in the middle of the pathway and try to get your bearings. Move over to the side. There's a lot of people trying to pass. You stop the flow of people. Don't be a path hole. That's just some Grumpa rules of etiquette that I like to encourage people to follow. Don't be a mask hole, a pass hole, a gas hole, or a path hole. I'm sure I will come up with some more holes to don't be, but don't fall into that hole. Be nice to each other. It's not that hard. I'm Grumpa and I can be nice to people. I may not like it, but I can. And finally, well, on this nice quiet stretch of road, let's address the elephant in the room. Yep, I'm a Texans fan. They're a dumpster fire right now. Oh, just once I would like a championship from my preferred team. Grew up a Cowboys household. Enjoyed the Cowboys, like the old school Cowboys. Staubach, Dorsett, Bob Lilly, Too Tall Jones, the old school. Had a second renaissance with Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin, and Emmitt Smith. When Jimmy and when Jerry and Jimmy broke up, they've been downhill ever since. I hadn't even been close to being a decent team. Miss the old days. But man, I had hopes for the Texans. They finally got a quarterback. They're getting him killed again. They don't learn. Gave the coach GM power. He turned into a complete trash heap. Traded away players for nothing. Ooh. And odds are JJ will be gone next year. That'll make it even worse. Not quite how bad the Browns, but I got an idea of how Browns fans feel, and I've got a friend that's been a long-time Browns fan. I'm sorry, dude. This sucks. But we're going to go on up the road some more. If I find something interesting, we'll stop and take a look. Hey, I hope you enjoyed watching part 1 of my travel to Florida for my Disney Universal trip. Check out part 2 coming up soon. Be sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.